I think the entire pace of adoption experience, which we've been evangelizing for a long period of time, got accelerated, right? Testament to that is that in very short span of time, that few months that the country went into lockdown and the pandemic, we had nearly 40 to 45 million students come on board, right? And it's a very short set of time that we kind of had, and we had spent, the previous years, getting about 40 million plus students onto the platform. But all of that, almost got matched up and even exceeded in that short span of time where the pandemic was in play. So we had over 100 minutes plus of engagement happening on the platform, right? They were trying out the various products that we kind of had put out, the various learning paths. What we did was to kind of really accelerate the development of also the synchronous component, the live classes component, right? So we felt that, okay, while the asynchronous component is great from, learn at your own pace and, personalization kind of kicks in, if you could marry this, right, and you could pair this with the discipline and the schedule of a live class, this could be really important, right? And that was a need of the hour at that point of time, because students were not going to schools, they're not going to classrooms, they're missing that schedule and the discipline that kind of comes with that. But we could also do the interplay of asynchronous learning and synchronous learning, right? Because the best way to kind of go out there and to kind of impact learning is to say that there is your own asynchronous learning where you learn at your own convenience in a personalized fashion. You come prepped to the live class for a live session with your teachers in a nicely optimized fashion, so that you're ready for whatever cognition, whatever understanding and knowledge intake that you need to kind of do. And once that's kind of done, so that the pre-class experience is asynchronous, the live class experience is nicely structured. There are the top teachers kind of teaching you directly, and they're kind of energetic and they kind of are transformational the way that they kind of teach. And then you have the mentors who are there to kind of give you the one-on-one attention to answer your doubts, right? And then post that you go on to a post-class experience, which is again tweaked and specific to your needs, your learning footprint. In that sense, we completed the whole, the interplay between asynchronous and synchronous learning, bringing the best of both worlds out to students, right? And which is what really got them to kind of adopt the platform in a big, large way. But we accelerated the entire product development, the entire team, and that was something able to ship that during the pandemic itself, right? And we made the live class component also as a very strong part of the overall experience. In that sense, the full offering became a lot more stronger. There are different ways to kind of make the session, light enough, right, to optimize. The teacher needs to be on the best of videos because that's where the learning is kind of happening by. And when you kind of are using all the digital artifacts and making the class a lot more effective, there the bandwidth needs to be great. Now, from the student side, how do you kind of make that experience seamless enough? That is where the technology part kind of comes by and makes it lightweight, ensures that the buffering is kind of done really well and the optimizations happen, right? That said, I wouldn't say that it's a 100% solved problem. It is always a work in progress. So we are there in pretty much all parts of the country, over 1,700 plus cities and towns. We are nearly 65% of our user base kind of comes from beyond the top 10 cities. We are right now, I think, catering to overall user base of in excess of about 80 to 85 million users and 5.5 million plus paid users, right? So all of that growth and the way that we can be scaling over a span of time is kind of played out really well. That said, we've been optimizing for impact, right? So the business growth does come by very steadily. From a product and tech perspective, our internal teams have always been focusing on how do you make that impact a lot more manifold. One part of it is the reach, number of students that we can cater to. The second part of it is engagement, where we said, has this really entered the life of our students? Are they spending enough time? So that's where the 100 plus minutes of engagement, the daily average that they kind of spend during times of exams and pandemic, and even at the default state, it's a very, very healthy engagement that we kind of see. So that's how we look at the impact that we've been making, and those are the metrics that we kind of look to track and kind of understand whether we have entered the lives of students in a very positive fashion. We did kind of try to help them out a lot more. There was a lot of asks to say, okay, math and science, can you get us more subjects? We added social sciences after that, right? So we keep adding in subjects, we cater to more grades. But when we kind of launch a product, and the impact of pandemic after that has been almost equal across all the segments. We've not seen one specific segment kind of starkly stand out. And whenever the behavior is kind of settled post the lockdown, it's been also kind of very similar across all the age groups. the product development team has a few components, right? I'll just give you a structure of our teams that kind of divided so that you get a sense of the entire platform itself and the teams that kind of go behind, making the platform a reality. Now we have the academic team, the pedagogy team that simplifies the concept, structures that, and that's a large team, right? Because you're talking about subjects, you're talking about grades, you're talking about going granular and trying to figure out what is the best way to demystify a specific concept and translate that into the most simple way to kind of communicate that to the student. And then there's a large media team. And when you talk about the media teams, you're talking about video creation teams, animators, artists who go on to kind of give that form and structure to the content so that it's made engaging, right? Because you're competing with the best of distraction that kids have at this age. And if that is that is what you're looking to kind of engage them around, then the bar is really high, right? Because I can tell you that building for this age group has been a very humbling experience as a product builder myself, because they either love what you're building and they want to kind of consume it, or they reject it, right? So you have to really be on the point there. We not only we kind of do the video content, we have a lot of large setup of game studios that we kind of have in-house itself, which build out those interactive experiences, be it the simulations, be it the game-based experiences where you can understand the concept, not just for testing a concept, but even to kind of help you introduce to a specific concept. How do optics work, right? How do habitats work? If you have to kind of just understand that through a video, that kind of help you. But if you could really interplay and use them as Lego blocks and kind of understand how the various mechanics work, that transforms learning in a different way, makes your cognition a lot more stronger. That itself is about 1,500 to 2,000 member product development team. All of these functions kind of put together. And we've been scaling up, right? And the idea is to kind of cross a product development team, which is in excess of 6,000 plus, because that's a scale that's a constant exercise that we kind of have in terms of bettering the impact through be it the content, be it the strengthening of the platform, or the intelligence that we put into making that experience a lot more personalized. Largely, most of our teams are kind of based in India. We have, of course, have acquisitions, Osmo that we kind of acquired as well. So those teams are kind of based in wherever they were kind of headquartered. But beyond that, the bulk of the development is based out of India itself and largely in Bangalore. We build in public. We build with co-creation at the heart of how we kind of create our products. Be it the video content, be it the game-based content, the way that we test out personalization, all of this is with co-creation at the heart of it. And co-creation means that kids are part of our user research teams. We have fairly large user research team as well, work in tandem with kids, right? So suppose we're putting out a new video and we want to see if this approach or style kind of works for this age group, right? We test that out. Right? We're building game-based learning. We've had actual games getting constructed and tweaked around by kids saying that, okay, those mechanics don't work. This mechanic is a lot more fun because they understand games a lot better than some of our creators do, right? Because they are kind of, growing up in that sort of a spectrum. So the way that we have been doing our first level of feedback is through a lot of co-creation. That's very powerful with children at the heart of it. Parents are also part of the process. So we have a large mentor team who are part of our internal teams, who are all constantly in touch with students, with parents and other stakeholders to kind of understand whether what we built is kind of helping them, are there specific challenges, is there more support needed? So that becomes another feedback loop for us, which kind of keeps coming back to the product teams to kind of act upon. But from the product perspective as well, everything that we kind of have built out is tracked from the perspective of being able to see, okay, the child has a knowledge graph, a learning profile. How is this impacting that, right? Is something that we built also kind of, making them kind of engage a lot more, right? Is it helping them do better at the standardized test that kind of comes by after this learning module is kind of done? So there's a lot of quantitative feedback that's baked into the loop as well, right? Where our product teams are able to kind of see, okay, something that's been launched, they're able to A/B test, they're able to see this learning path versus something else that we tried out, what worked out better, and they're able to get that feedback in, right? Even during the pandemic, I know that the way that we kind of structured our classes, we iterated upon it multiple times. We got a lot of feedback loops. What is the right way to make the class kind of engaging? We kind of iterated upon that. We have always kind of worked on our game-based learning through a lot of iterations as well. Initially, we kind of had longer form videos, right, where they would sit back and kind of watch that for a span of time. And that's a period of inactivity. There's a lot of feedback that we got from kids as well, but also from parents, right? How do you kind of make this slightly more active? So if you see the philosophy of how we structure our learn journeys, now it is not a sit back and consume sort of an experience. It's interactive where you kind of intersperse a segment of 2 minute video with some degree of interactivity where we're testing out whether have you kind of mastered the concept a little bit, or even if it's not mastery, we kind of feed in a little bit of a curious fact related to that concept, so that that whole interaction is kind of coming back. So that seems a lot more of a vibrant and active engagement, right? So all of that feedback actually came in a lot heavily influenced by both children and parents, right? Who kind of said that, okay, can we make that journey a lot more fun and interactive? So it's a vehicle, right? Hardware and software are vehicles, the way that we kind of delivering the experiences. And wherever I think the capability kind of becomes, the experience becomes a lot more smoother, right? I think that's what we are optimizing for, right? In some sense, when our users can, for certain experiences, not have to kind of connect to the internet, but can actually kind of feed off the content that exists on the device that we kind of have shared with them, right? Or it's pre-bundled and packaged. It makes the experience slightly more seamless. But as and when they kind of get the internet connection back on, it's seamless. The data kind of flows. We're getting the engagement data, and that's how the experience kind of gets better. So I think we, from the perspective of our thesis on the whole aspect, we see hardware, software, digital experiences, phygital experiences that you would have seen with the computer vision capabilities that we kind of added. All of those are levers and dimensions that we will use to kind of drive different use cases, whichever is a benefit. And some of it might be relevant for India, some of it might be relevant for, say, certain other geographies. But that's how we kind of think about it. We're not kind of necessarily just married to one specific approach.